and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I'm Kanishka Gupta. It's the 18th of September 2023 and here are the questions we will be answering today. Has Dholera failed to fulfill its promise? Have smartphones reached the end of their evolution? Will the US Fed derail the rally in Indian equity markets? And what is the France-iPhone fiasco? Dholera, sometimes hailed as India's very own Singapore and as India's Shanghai at other times, seems stuck in a time wrap. Announced in 2008 and touted as Narendra Modi's dream project, who was then Gujarat's chief minister. Dholera's special investment region is yet to gain ground. Kasturi Akhil and Ashutosh Mishra find out why.
What was envisaged to be India's first greenfield smart city way back in 2007 by Narendra Modi, the Dholera Special Investment Region still remains a dream in the making. Although a lot of projects on the proposed area of 920 square kilometers have already kick-started and some are nearing completion too, critical infrastructure including the Dholera International Airport and the Ahmedabad-Dholera Expressway are still in the works. Reportedly, the estimated development cost of the Dholera project is 20,000 crore rupees. Time and again, Dholera fell short of attracting major investments from several mega projects that could have provided an impetus to the region. According to media reports, more than 1.4 lakh crore rupees worth investment were promised at the Vibrant Gujarat Summit in 2017, but a large part of it is still not visible on the ground yet. Last year, the Tata Group set up India's first aircraft manufacturing facility in Vadodara through a consortium led by Airbus, which was earlier slated for Dholera. Although Tata Group Chairman N. Chandrasekaran said that the facility will also be established in Dholera once the Vadodara project pans out. Another major blow to Dholera's endeavours in becoming the semiconductor hub of the country was when Foxconn withdrew from the joint venture with Vedanta earlier this year. And then the Tatas changed their plans to set up its first lithium-ion cell plant worth 13,000 crore rupees in Dholera and took it to Sanand instead. Business Standard has reported on 13 September that Tata Chemicals had recently gained possession of land in Dholera for setting up the battery plant. However, the very next day it reported that no firm land deal was signed. So what is it about Dholera that it always falls short of attracting an anchor investor?
The anchor investors are not coming because they believe that there are no ancillary units, there's no ecosystem around which they can come and invest and build their business. All these places where anchor investors are coming in, they have been envisioned around a particular industry need that is being met. If you look at the Gift City, again, Gift City has been anchored around being the IT and the financial hub uh, as a smart city. And that is where Dholera has missed the bus.
If Foxconn and he had come, then one would have obviously had a party, and Dholera would have been successful in a major way because you're getting $20 billion of investment. Just like, when Sanand happened, Tatas luckily were able to, they were lucky that they got Tatas in because Singhu had rejected them. I was in Dholera, and I think the biggest problem that they are facing is essentially on getting an anchor investor.
The pace of development at Dholera SIR was also marred by lack of proper drainage system for a long time. The geographical location of the proposed industrial town falls in the low-lying flood-prone area of the state of Gujarat. All of these ecological factors discouraged industrial players from investing in the region despite lucrative incentives from the government.
The ecological reality of Dholera being a coastal area, being that there's hardly much of a vegetation, and it's quite marshy because when you go there you get to see that there are huge parcels of land which are just lying idle, and also because of it being such a pocket away from an urbanized area, it becomes almost pretty much uninhabitable.
Recently, though, while speaking to Business Standard, officials involved in Dholera developmental projects have claimed that the issue of water drainage has been solved. Apart from drainage, the city's plug and play infrastructure, including a 72-kilometer road and an emergency command center, has been built. As per Dholera SIR's official website, as of now, projects worth around 2,500 crore rupees are already in motion. The authorities related to the projects are attempting to woo the investors to the special investment region with all their might. But experts point out that what Dholera lacks is a USP with the potential to attract investment from a specialized cluster of industry. How and when that translates on ground will decide the fate for the city.
Phones, meanwhile, have come a long way. When Motorola came out with the world's first portable mobile device, Dynatac 8000X, way back in 1984, people affectionately called it the brick phone. It weighed almost 1 kilogram with 30 minutes of battery life, and it was priced at $4,000. Almost 39 years on, Motorola's H40 is said to be the lightest and slimmest phone. It weighs just 167 grams. A lot has changed indeed. But are you among those who believe that phones have stopped surprising people and they look almost the same as they were a few years ago? Then you're not alone. So has innovation in smartphones reached the end of the line? Ayush Mishra and Tariq Ahmed dial the experts.
The present-day smartphones are a result of almost 30 years of innovation. In 1992, IBM announced a device called the Simon Personal Communicator. IBM Simon came with a monochrome LCD screen and touchscreen that required a stylus, and this was the first device to be called a smartphone. This device, when it finally came out in 1994, had the earliest smartphone apps like Notepad, calendar, calculator, address book, and email in it. Then in 1997, Nokia 6110 introduced the first ever mobile game, Snake. In 2000, the first camera phone, JSH04, was introduced by the Japanese company Sharp, though the camera had only a tenth of a megapixel quality. The latest iPhone has a 48 megapixel camera. The early adoptions of the internet in mobile phones came in 2001 and was widely adopted in 2003 with the spread of 3G connectivity. But the revolutionary device that changed the course of the evolution of smartphones came in 2007 when Apple introduced its first iPhone. The first iPhone was a sleek multi-touch screen device with camera, iPod, and full internet accessing capabilities at a price of $499. The software capabilities of the first iPhone were groundbreaking, as the users were able to download millions of third-party applications. After the first iPhone, innovations in smartphones hit the fast lane. In 2008, the first Android smartphone, HTC Dream, was introduced with the collaboration of Google. Since then, smartphones have been innovating rapidly. In terms of the processing power, camera and display quality, battery life and software capabilities, smartphones have achieved unimaginable progress. The latest A17 Pro chip from Apple, which is used in iPhone 15 Pro, carries 19 billion transistors on it. And the 48-pixel camera allows the users to even make cinemas. But in the last few years, Have you seen a phone which breaks away from the past? Has any phone taken you by surprise? Now, when leading manufacturers like Apple and Samsung introduce updates to their existing iPhone and Galaxy, there is hardly any difference on the face of it. Foldable and wireless charging smartphones have been the recent major innovations, but the penetration level of these phones have been very low. So has smartphone innovation reached the end of the line?
I would not say it is the end of the line, but yeah, it has certainly slowed down in the past 2-3 years, except a few exceptions like fold and flip when we are really bringing more real estate called screen to the more pocketable device. But it has certainly slowed down, yes.
So a lot of things were happening a decade back, but then the entire form factor kind of stabilized on the hardware side of things. But although on the surface it appears it has peaked, but then there are plenty of innovations happening within.
Now there are over 6.5 billion smartphone devices in the world. The drought in innovations is reflected in the changes in customer behavior when it comes to buying a new smartphone. Experts point out that the smartphone is becoming a distressed purchase. And as a result of the less evident innovations and rising cost of living, people are using their smartphones for a longer period of time, and they prefer to exchange their old devices to get a new one.
Earlier, people were buying phone, let's say, after 2 years, 2.5 years. Maybe in future, people will buy a phone after 4 years, right? Which means doubling your replacement rate. That will obviously have an impact on the overall industry that was at its peak selling around 2 billion phones. Maybe in future, we'll settle at around only 1 billion phones per year.
According to the International Data Corporation report, smartphone shipment across the world shrunk by 11.3% in 2022. Also, the same report suggests that the shipment of used smartphones worldwide has increased in 2022 by 11.5%. Though the visible innovations in smartphones have been less, more innovations are happening in the smart devices like watches and virtual and augmented reality space.
For example, I'm very excited about the AR VR headsets going into the real life scenarios. Like it puts the whole entire world and the experience of the smartphone in front of our eyes. Obviously, it has to be non-intrusive. You can't, it should not come in the way of our normal life. Secondly, I think one of the most important one and less talked about thing is the wearable space. And when I say wearable, this is about watches.
Experts believe that though the smartphone innovations appeared to have slowed down, some tech disruptions are in the pipeline, and they may surprise us, like the upcoming mixed reality headset developed by Apple called Apple Vision Pro.
Apple stocks have jumped over 40% this year so far, thanks to its record sales. The Indian equity markets too have been on a record-breaking spree. Key indices, including the benchmark Sensex and Nifty, scaled new lifetime highs last week. As the focus shifts on the US Fed meeting this week, will the market change tracks post the outcome? Rex Cano and Nikita Vashisht share insights on the likely road ahead.
Sailing through the choppy waters amid rising crude oil prices and US Treasury yields, the BSE Sensex and NSE Nifty notched all-time high levels of 67,900 and 20,200 last week. However, what became the hotly discussed topic was the roller coaster ride in the broader market space. The stupendous rally of up to 30% so far this year saw some signs of exhaustion midweek as analysts warned of irrational exuberance. The indices, however, recouped after lost ground later. Present rally seems to be driven primarily by domestic institutions. Mutual funds saw a record 3.6 million new SIP accounts registered in August, taking the net inflows via the route to 15,814 crore rupees. That apart, domestic institutional investors have net bought equities worth nearly 8,300 crore rupees in September, as against the net sellings by FPIs worth 9,745 crore rupees. Analysts believe these flows will now be a function of the US Federal Reserve's interest rate decision, due on September 20th, which remains the key monitorable this week. According to Chris Wood of Jefferies, greed and fear's base case remains no rate hike at the next FOMC meeting, with the wildcard in the coming weeks remaining the oil price. Back home, experts Business Standard spoke to echoed similar views.
Upcoming federal meeting, we're expecting a pause, and that's what the market is pricing in as well. But the next meetings in November and December, markets are pricing in a hike because the Fed is taking time to analyze the situation and what the interest rates have done so far. And so for investors, Fed meetings, interest rates, and the comments and the factor of inflation that plays into these comments are very unpredictable. So it's best for investors to stay invested.
Technically, the frontline indices may consolidate following the steep rally.
The Nifty is seen trading along the higher end of the Bollinger Band on the daily chart. The weekly chart suggests that the index may face near resistance at 20,300, whereas the overall mood is likely to remain upbeat as long as the index holds the 20,000 mark. Meanwhile, the BSE Sensex may swing in the range of 67,000 to 68,400 this week. Support for the index is expected around 67,300 and resistance at 68,100.
Today, on September 18, market activity may be tepid, as investors may prefer to sit on the sidelines ahead of the Fed meet. Markets will remain closed on September 19 on account of Ganesh Chaturthi.
He's making plans for an early retirement. Business Standard.
Moving on, US tech giant Apple was in for a rude shock as French authorities asked it to halt iPhone 12 sales in the country. This comes just a day after the launch of iPhone 15 series. Sanket Kaul finds out what the France-iPhone fiasco is really about.
France's National Frequency Agency, ANFR, recently released a report flagging the excessive radiation coming from iPhone 12, which breaches the European Union's radiation exposure limits. CNN reported that ANFR has asked Apple to withdraw iPhone 12 from the French market, effective from 12 September 2023. The reasoning given is the phone's specific absorption rate of radiation exceeding the set limits. Specific absorption rate is the measure of the rate of radio frequency energy absorbed by the body from a piece of equipment. High SAR rating can increase the risk of various forms of cancer in humans. AFNR accredited labs found specific absorption rate levels of 5.74 watts per kilogram against the European Union standard of 4.0 watts per kilogram during tests of iPhone 12 while being held in hand or kept in trouser pockets. France's junior minister for digital economy, Jean-Noël Barrot, confirmed the ANFR's findings in an interview with La Parisienne, saying that Apple is expected to respond within 2 weeks and that a software update would be adequate. The French minister went on to add that if Apple fails to do so, then the government will not hesitate to call back all models of iPhone 12 in circulation. Findings of the AFNR report has also led to Dutch and Belgian reviews of iPhone 12's radiation performance. Apple has disputed the ANFR report by saying it had already given the agency multiple lab results conducted by the company and independent third parties that showed the device's compliance with relevant SAR regulations and global standards.
Nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.
Apple, meanwhile, has said that it will update a software which will fix the access radiation issue. Well, that's all for today. For more news and analysis, please log into business-standard.com. If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.